Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show. With tens of millions of Americans unemployed, we could all use some advice on how to get that job if you find yourself between jobs. To talk about that, a hiring expert, Michael Goldberg from Hiring Transform.
Hi, how are you, Jeff?
Coming on the show.
Thanks for, this is my first venture out. Honestly, it's
Really?
In 4 months, it's my first venture out, so
No kidding.
I'm honored.
Well, I'm honored too.
There you go.
So I know a lot of people watching the show are probably fearful about the economy, especially now that we're talking about closing parts of it again. What's your crystal ball telling you about how this is all going to go?
Well, when I checked it last night, it was basically telling me that right now, the reason why unemployment has gone down is because people went back to work, right? In terms of retail, restaurants, bars. But now the bars have been closed as of Friday. So my crystal ball is saying that for the hourly workers, for software developers, for accounting and finance professionals, it's all good. But when you get to that director level, all the way to the executive level, that's where it starts to flatten out. When you don't see those postings on LinkedIn, or what you're hearing about networking, or from networking groups where they share leads, there's really not too much at that higher level, and that's where I think you're seeing the biggest swell. I saw some BLS numbers, Bureau of Labor Statistic numbers from May, and 30% of the workforce that's looking right now are executives. So multiply that in the millions, and that's a lot of executives taking a look, and that's director all the way to the C-suite.
Well, I want you to talk about how your company works and how people can engage you. What exactly do you provide for the job seeker?
Sure. So my services is a full job search strategy. A lot of people, when they're engaging me, they're just applying online, right? They're not really figuring out, I need to figure out, here's what I'm looking for personally. And it always starts with you, what your values are, what are your targets, target company, target size, target cultures that you want to go work for. A lot of people go, well, that's kind of fluffy. Well, no, it's not. It's actually about what you want, because who knows how long this is going to go on. So you want to make sure you're finding the right company. I had a friend of mine who landed a job in January with a nonprofit organization, which everybody thought those were safe, in human resources, and texted her last night, and she says, they just let me go. They had to let me go. So it's really, and she was passionate about it. She believed in the mission, right? And I think that's super important. So she knew what she wanted, but unfortunately, the business environment got the best of her. So once you know what you can do, then you have to know how to tell a story. A lot of people fall down on this part, and so I really walk with my clients how to tell their stories using the STAR methodology: situation, task, action, and then the major one is R for results, right? And that's where, when people go into interviews, they have these stories at the ready, and it's stories of success,
right? And
it's stories of some failures, because we all have failures in our life. And I've been asked plenty of questions during interviews. Tell me about a time where something didn't go right. And then after we have our accomplishments, we work on our 30-second spiel, and we work on 3 different questions there. Your elevator pitch, number 1. The second one's tell me about yourself, because a lot of people just ramble. And the third one is, why should I hire you? That's a critical question where a lot of people just have the deer in the headlights look and they don't know what to do.
You also help them with resume,
LinkedIn, networking, how to network, especially during this time, virtual networking. There's an art to it, and a lot of people are choosing to stick their heads in the sand and wait for this thing to be over. But as we're clearly seeing, we're not in phase 2. This is still phase 1 of this pandemic, and companies are now going to go back to being a little more cautious in who they're hiring. Hiring is up. Hiring is up for certain job sectors, but yeah.
Well, I would urge my audience to follow Michael because he's giving away some great information. I want to talk about your YouTube series that you've been doing, and we've got a little bit of video. I want you to describe this one because I was impressed. These people are from overseas, right?
They are. So back in or about 3 weeks ago, I started something it's a LinkedIn Live called Jobseeker Journeys, and it focused on the U.S. And basically, it's the chance to spotlight candidates. So if you want to be on the show, reach out to me. We'll hopefully throw up some contact information or happily share it with you. But someone from Europe was watching, a friend of mine from Europe was watching, and she said, let's do the same thing for Europe and Africa. And the people that you were showing on the screen, Nana and Alexander's, one lives in Latvia, and Nana, who was from the Czech Republic, is now living in Amsterdam.
Wow.
Right? And so they're telling their job seeker journeys, and we ask the same questions every other week. And so we do that on LinkedIn Live, my Facebook Live, my YouTube page. So I'm trying to spotlight candidates. Mm-hmm. So hopefully when recruiters are looking at these folks, they're going, hey, I need a developer, or hey, I need, in this case, these two were project managers. Let's hire them.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
The other thing I wanted to talk about with you is Zoom interviews because, many people have a vague idea of how to do a face-to-face interview, but a Zoom interview, and we've got some pictures of different Zoom interviews. It's tough, isn't it, when you're not physically in the room with the person you're talking to?
I think it's becoming easier for people, but no, it's a little uncomfortable at first because the first thing we do since we were 7 or 8, we had learned that when you meet somebody, you reach out, you shake their hand, you say, it's nice to meet you.
Right.
Now you can't do that, so it makes it a little tough. The goal when you're doing your virtual interviews is to look straight at the camera. Mm-hmm. I don't know which camera I should be looking at, but look straight at the camera.
Right.
And don't take your eyes off the camera. Our tendency is to look down at our screens to look at the person to see if they're paying attention. But if you look at the camera, you have a smile when you're talking. Not overly hand gestures like I tend to do, but just simple hand gestures to make your points. Throw a little energy out there, and when you do, that gets people to pay attention to what you are doing and what you are saying. If I am to talk monotone and not really look at the camera and stare off at this and stare off at that, it's not good. You don't come off as confident. The other thing, and I was talking to a client last week, and she pulled out this, it was a little hack that she came up with. She had this Kleenex box, and there was a note taped to it. I go, what is that? She goes, that's my cheat sheet. So it's okay to have a cheat sheet. Mm. It's okay if you've got a second monitor, tape your resume or tape your talking points up. Have your stories at the ready, and not all typed out so you're sitting there reading it line by line by line, but just bullet points to jog your memory.
Yes. Right?
So create those hacks. As long as it's not on the camera, nobody cares. Don't worry about the dog barking. Don't worry about your child walking into the room. They understand that. Mm. Now, I preface that with, tell everybody that you're about to go on an interview and I need some quiet time. You want to have a professional looking environment, so you don't want to be on your bed. You don't want to be on the floor of your bed. Or in the bathroom, and I have seen all that. So be in a professional room that's quiet, that has good Wi-Fi. That's another key point. And be positive. The best thing you can do to prepare for you for an interview is to practice. Mm. Is to practice your elevator pitch, practice tell me about yourself, practice the why me, and practice your stories. Sit in front of a mirror or talk to your spouse or significant other and let them ask you questions. Have your phone recording you. So when I work with my clients for our pre-interview prep, because I meet with them an hour a week, but then I also offer when they have interviews, pre-interview prep and the post-interview review. But for our pre-interview prep calls, what we do is we record the Zoom, and we do it as if we're having an interview right then and there, and then I'm recording it, and I coach them after we've gone through the questions. And that is very effective.
Talk about the importance of doing your homework on the company you're interviewing with, because I've heard horror stories of candidates who come into a job interview completely unprepared. They don't even know what the company does.
So that is probably the biggest mistake, whether you're in sales or whether you're looking for a job, is junior folks, and even some senior folks who haven't been in a job search, they'll do the research, they'll look at the company page, they'll look at the careers page, and they go, okay, I'm done. Look at the news page, read the press releases, review each of the board of directors and the executives' profiles on LinkedIn, or most of the time they're actually on the career website, or the actual website. Read the investor relations page to see if there's anything that can give you some news about where the company has been, what projects they're working on. Are they losing money? Are they in bankruptcy? Because that's all in the in the news. So it's real important to canvass the entire company website.
That's great. What are some other do's and don'ts?
Definitely don't when you're for the interviews. Don't slouch. Jeff,
what should you wear? Are you wearing?
Yeah. So I'm wearing what I would wear. I'm actually wearing long pants. It's the first time I've worn long pants in 4 months. But you should wear. You want to feel professional when you're doing an interview.
Yes. So
you're going to dress like a schlep, or you're going to dress like you're a professional.
Right.
Right. You're gonna put on a nice collared shirt, not a polo, not a t-shirt. Unless you're interviewing with like some millennial type company and the CEO's in t-shirt, right? But it doesn't matter. You always go the one step further. Dress professional. Make sure your hair is all set. Make sure you brush your teeth. Make sure you've got a positive energy.
Yes.
So the one thing I always do before I have interviews or before I conduct interviews is I exercise that day, and I exercise in the morning. That gets my blood pumping and thinking, and it lasts all day long. And I go till I'm going longer now since I've started swimming, about 9 hours a day. And that's the other tip, if I may. Your job search does not mean you have to search for jobs 9 hours a day. You want to take the time, maybe a couple of hours working on your stories or tweaking your resume. If they come to me, you'll definitely be involved in doing a lot of that. That'll take 2 to 3 hours a week. Then you might want to spend an hour or two canvassing the internet for jobs. So whether you go on LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, any of the major boards. But then take the time to read something about the industry that you're trying to get into or you've been into, but read a book about one of the pioneers of that industry. Read Harvard Business Review, the Dallas Morning News, New York Times, whatever your paper of choice is. Get informed, because these are conversational pieces that you can have when you're talking to the person. When they bring something up, you don't want to go, I haven't heard that.
We're almost out of time. We're going to put your website up, but you've got an event coming up that you want to tell people about.
I do. I appreciate that. So I do have an event that's coming up. It's going to be one webinar, and you can pick either July 7th, July 8th, or July 9th, and they're offered at 3 different times. And we're going to be talking to we'll be hosting executives to learn about how to conduct an effective job search, but more importantly, how to come off as a subject matter expert in their field, whether it's using LinkedIn or using other online resources. We'll talk about the value of networking and publishing content, and really it's more of a higher level overview, and then hopefully we're able to to convert some of those into some clientele here.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
I'm
thank you
excited.
for your service. Thank you for helping
Sure.
people who really desperately need it right now. This can be tough times on a family.
Well, thank you. I found a passion, and I love it. I love what I'm doing.
That's great. We're going to put your website up. HiringTransform.com is the website. Michael Goldberg, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
You bet.
Thanks.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.